Hi, Carol. Thank you for calling.
Yep.
This must be so bewildering for you. We feel like we're doing all the talking here. Are there any questions you might have for us, Carol?
I guess to start with, what the
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the latest episode of JKL Media Reviews. And we're turning back to Pluribus, Season 1, Episode 3, Grenade. And as usual, joined by my co-host, Jesse, the J.
Hello.
And
Close doesn't count except in what? Horseshoes and hand grenades?
Hand-
Yeah.
And the K.
Karen. Hi,
Karen.
everyone. I'm here too.
And this time I guess we're getting more of a flavor of the DNA of the show, doing some flashbacks and then getting back to the quote unquote present. We'll get into all of that, but quick thoughts, starting with you, Jesse. What did you think of this episode?
I really loved this episode. We'll get into this later when we get to more depth, but I liked how it showed Carol before and after, and it gave us some insight into her personality. And there are several wait what's on this that go, wait, what? But overall, just a really entertaining hour.
Karen.
Yeah, I also liked the beginning. I don't know where it's going to fit in. It's interesting to see. Is it just showing us her temperament? I like that we saw Helen again. That was cool.
Yeah.
And we do get an expansion of what the world is like at this point. I do the countdown timer. When they went back to 7 years ago, the numbers were really big.
Yeah,
it
that
was
made
like-
me, I had to flip back and go, wait a minute. Oh, okay, it's going downward. So this is
Yeah.
a prequel. Yes.
So it's 2,500 or so
Yeah.
days before the
Mhm.
takeover. So yeah, I found this interesting, and how Carol is dealing with things is you really get to see her character in this episode.
Yeah, I didn't like this one as much as the first two. I appreciated what it was doing, but I thought it took a lot of time to do that. So I think this episode could have been tightened up quite a bit, but it's the DNA of Vincent Gilligan. I think that they do these long, slow shots, or there's a lot of visual storytelling with this, but I just didn't find it moved quick enough for my taste. I was a little impatient with it to get on to the next big thing. And it's establishing some important story points, which we'll discuss as we get into it. But yeah, I didn't like this one as much as the first two, but I still enjoyed it. But I thought it was a little too purposeful for its own good at times. Let's start then with Karen. I'll turn to you on this. Let's start with the ice hotel scene and go right through to the end because it's only a couple of minutes long. What do you think of it, and what do you think the purpose of it was?
Yeah, I've watched travel blogs, travel shows, and anytime they go to one of these ice hotels, I'm like, cool concept. I'm never going there. I am right in Carol's camp. The bed's made of ice. And she says it like 3 times. The bed is made of ice. We're going to be sleeping on a block of ice. I don't get it. I don't want to be cold ever. Although in my house, I'd rather be slightly cold and put a blanket on than be too hot. But this is taking that to extremes. Having to bundle up in order to go to sleep is not my idea of a vacation. So I really did sympathize with her, and it showed that they're compatible to a point. I feel like Carol just wasn't interested in anything that was going on. She was more concentrated on where her book was on I'm guessing it's the New York Times bestseller list. And it really does show us what she was about. She'd rather stay at home and be comfortable. And Helen wanted to go do things. We saw that she had a bucket list of places she wanted to go. And I found that scene very interesting. I enjoyed the fact that They got shown to their room by this guy. Helen was very engaging, and Carol was just bundled up like Kenny from South Park, walking behind him.
Yeah.
And it was a very interesting backstory beat for her, I thought.
Okay, Jesse.
Yeah, there is a scene. I'm not coming up with this. Someone wrote a review, but I think it's worth reviewing. Sorry for the double meanings there. But in Breaking Bad, there is a flashback where Walter White and his wife are looking at the house they're going to purchase. And he is complaining about how it's not big enough, it should be flashier. And he's showing that he is a bitter person. And that's important because later you determine that was it the cancer that made him go bad, Breaking Bad, or was it just in his nature to begin with? And this scene shows he always had that nature. So I think this is important to show Carol's never been a happy person. Nothing makes Carol happy. She she is, and I have known people like that. If you go, oh, this is the greatest, people adore this restaurant. It's not that good. And so that is her. And somehow or another, Helen just puts up with her. She loves her and don't pee, but just shut up. I'm enjoying the lights. And her point was, wow, it's a screensaver. And I thought of that when Linda and I went to years ago to Muir Woods. And I went, yep,
Oh,
that's a big tree. And then
it's
that was enough for
beautiful
me.
there, though, Muir
And that's what
Woods.
Linda thought.
Yeah.
I could sit here all the time. And I'm like,
Get that cedar
yeah.
smell and oh.
But when we went to New England last fall, because we wanted to experience the leaves, it was amazingly beautiful. And yes, it looked just like it did on a picture, but to see that and feel the Christmas the air, it was enough. And the you can buy things or you can buy experiences. And Helen seems to be someone I want to buy the experience. Will I go back? I don't know. But the idea that we are in this hotel built of ice this is the only season this is going to look like that. Because the next year it will be something different, is an experience. But I'm also one of the guys that when we go out to a restaurant, I will often order something different. And it may come in going, I won't order this again, or wow, this was really great. So yeah, I think this was a really important to set that Carol is an unhappy person. And I don't even know if it's because she has to be unhappy to write. Her default setting is unhappy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I totally agree with both of your interpretations there. I think that what's exciting for me is to find out why she is the way she is. And I think that's a backstory that we have yet to see. It could go all the way back to when she was a child. We don't know, but I'm very curious to find out how she got to be the way she was. Visually, this sequence or section of the episode was stunning. The interior of
Mm.
that hotel room with the sculptures and the walls and like this, the beauty of everything was fantastic. And yet Helen is like totally into it. Like she's rubbing it. And Carol, like you said, Karen, she's got that parka on and her hood is extending past her face.
Hmm.
She's
Yeah.
very isolated. She has quite the layers. She hardly acknowledges the hotel person as an entity or that he even exists, which is parallels how she's been acting with the hive mind people like Zosia and so forth. So I really appreciated that aspect of it. And she's downplaying everything. The ice bed line was funny. But then at the very end, when they go to see the Aurora Borealis, and for all her barriers, I think in the last few seconds of that shot, you see in her eyes, because they're just looking at her face, in her eyes that she finally can appreciate the beauty of the Northern Lights. And so deep within inside of her, there still is this emotional core that is still there, which makes a lot of sense because people are emotional beings, regardless of the barriers that they throw up. So I think that whole setup of that sequence was to show that yes, Carol's very guarded. She's very isolating, but underneath, there's still that inner child that can be reached if the right stimulus is provided to her. So I thought that was very well done. Maybe a little too drawn out. And I think in general, coming back to my from the top of the episode comments, I think the show's established pretty well that Carol's a guarded individual. So I feel like we're retreading old ground a bit here. But I think what I'm hanging on to is that last shot of her eyes lighting up at the Aurora Borealis. Karen, do you have any thoughts on that, or do you think I'm reading too much into that?
No, I do think that it sparked a little bit of joy in her, but I don't think she's going to let Helen know because of that wall she has up of, I can't like anything. It's almost like that hipster mentality of, I can't think this is cool. And I do think that at the end when she's looking and she's just quiet and she's calming herself, there is that little bit of, yeah, this is amazing. And I'm here with the person I love. So
Right.
we do get to see that there's that kind of, she has set aside what she's preoccupied by for the woman she loves, and that is a big part of her
Yeah.
personality.
You make a great point there. I wish they would have shown Helen's reaction to Carol's reaction because Helen must see that inner child or whatever you want to call it. Otherwise, why would she be in this relationship with her? This is all Carol was because she has to know that there's more to Carol than what she's presenting to the world. How about you, Jesse? Any thoughts on how I interpreted the last beats in that scene?
Yeah, I think that's some great insight. I just think it is that Carol, to me, and this is only me, Carol isn't closed off. She just is an unhappy person. If it was up to her, she would just be sitting in the computer writing the crap she writes and watching the Golden Girls with, yeah. And and
So you really
Helen,
relate to those
yeah,
characters.
and Helen loves her despite of that. I think I don't think she necessarily sees the inside of Carol. I just think she loves her despite her sour nature. And I don't think it's a resentment. I think maybe I like that idea that maybe she was seeing the beauty at the end, but I almost read it of as, okay, I'm just going to stay quiet till I can talk again. So I'm a little more of cynical. Carol is just someone who just, I never understood what this meant, but my grandfather would say he'd complain if they hung him with a new rope.
That's
I have no
great.
idea what this means, but yes, this is someone who just will always look at the negative side of something.
Right.
Yeah.
That's
I
amazing.
looked up if that's a real ice hotel, and people aren't sure if that's a real hotel, but all the stuff that the dude was saying is real. The Harbin Ice
Yeah.
Sculpting Prize is a real
Yeah.
thing and all that.
According to the behind the scenes podcast, they did not fly to an actual ice hotel. And so this is plastic and styrofoam, and they created that to look. They did hire actual ice sculpture artists to sculpt this. So it is a combination of practical special effects, but it is not necessarily real ice, though the
Awesome.
Okay.
sculptures are there. But yeah, I would, and there has been a Hallmark movie, Take a Drink, set in an ice hotel. I do know, and I do think the idea
I
of,
think I've seen that one.
yeah, the idea of is the toilet made of ice? And
Is that do they have a destination wedding there at an ice hotel?
I can't remember, but maybe. So
A
yeah,
Hallmark movie, I would put
yeah,
money on
I
it.
think so.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm
Um,
Mhm.
surprised given the budget, like they're spending $15 million an episode when I
Yeah.
honestly can't see where all that money is going. I'm surprised that they didn't actually go on location for this.
yeah. One question before we move on.
Mhm.
Would you stay in an ice hotel?
No, but I'd take a tour of one.
Okay. Yeah, same here. Yeah.
Yeah,
How about you,
but
Jesse?
no,
Assuming that money is no object.
Of
Yes.
course.
Yeah. Then yes, I would stay. I would probably not stay a whole week, but I would
One
have a
night,
weekend.
maybe?
I would have a weekend and
Okay.
enjoy that experience to say get it off the thing, mostly because I run hot.
Mm,
And so
okay.
you don't want to wake up in a
that
puddle.
yeah, so that would be, I think, the idea. I do not like camping, but there is something really wonderful about when it's really cold outside and you're in that sleeping bag and you're bundled up and you're feeling comfortable. You sleep really solid with that. Yeah.
Yeah.
We always went camping in the summer because we never liked the cold,
Yeah.
Californians.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would never go to an, I would love to tour one. And
Hmm.
then that night I would go right back to the regular hotel
Yeah.
and stay with my warm room and air conditioning on. But yeah, thanks for answering that.
Yeah.
Mhm. All right, so then we have returning to the present, and then Carol and Sophia are flying back to Albuquerque, and this time they have real pilots trying to make Carol feel more comfortable. And she asks about the immune again, and there's one in particular that they haven't had any contact, that refuses any contact with. And right off the bat, you know that this type of personality is going to appeal to Carol because she's basically the same type. They try to contact the guy, and she doesn't have much success, but I do think that the seed is planted there for maybe that for this storyline to continue in future episodes because I think when Carol calls back and tells him off back, I think that person in Paraguay was probably going to be intrigued by her response to him. So I think that
He calls her a dirty name.
yeah.
Really
Okay.
bad.
Yeah. Then Zosia gives Carol a gift that was in the mail that Helen had provided, which contradicts what Carol told him in the previous episode not to completely forget about Helen. And as a toss off line, she just says, "Give me a hand grenade," and that plays a bigger part in the episode that we'll get back to. And so let's talk about that, and let's talk about the grocery store sequence. Jesse, why don't you kick it off this time?
Not only is Carol a sad person, she is a selfish person. And her example of this time, she says, take her out. I don't want to know any. You guys cannot, like Will Smith, take my wife's mouth name out of your mouth. Take my wife's name out of your mouth. And they're just they're like, this is going to make you happy because before your wife passed, she had ordered this for you because you saw it at the airport, you thought it was too expensive, so she ordered it for you. And the idea, we're feeding you because you have no food. So to make them reset that grocery store she is a selfish person. Because first off, she's not going to buy everything in the store. And the
Yeah, that
idea,
was my first thought too.
and secondly, it shows that this hive mentality sometimes, and we see there is no subtlety to them. Like
They
you
take
could
everything
have,
literally.
yeah, you could have, okay, one one thing of halos, three kinds of milk,
Yeah.
three kinds. You could have put one or two items of every kind in there because she's not going to order that. Or even to say, Carol, it's unrealistic for us to restock this whole grocery store for you to go shopping. But no, they literally do that. When this is happening, a logical person, a less selfish person, and I'm going to give Carol some slack that she is in grief and still in shock, would say, stop, stop. I didn't mean that. I just wanted the ability to go shopping. But no, and it's funny and it is a great visual to show the empty grocery store and the full grocery store. But logic, I'm thinking, okay, and now then after she shops, they're going to have to move everything back to the warehouse. And then when you want to shop again, how are we going to do this? And the idea that whoever pirate girl, right, she'd be able to say, okay, let's work this out, how we do this, are going to do this. So it was a funny scene, but it just bothered me that Carol doesn't realize how selfish she is or just doesn't give an F.
Aaron.
Yeah. Agreed. Yeah. The Sprouts thing I thought was a gorgeous bit of choreography. It was almost like a dance with all the people filing in. My first thought as well was, what are they going to do with all that food? And I'm thinking to myself, this again, my head canon, take a drink, is that they're going to use that as a local grocery store for all of their hive as well. I'm hoping because they're all into conserving, right? I'm guessing that's what's going to happen because they consolidated everything for easier dispersal, but in order to satisfy her, maybe they'll use this as a in her area. Those people will go there to get their stuff. I'm hoping.
Instead of a warehouse, they're going to go to this one.
Just
And
the people
yeah, the
around.
people in that Albuquerque or whatever town that is. That makes a lot of sense.
I'm hoping at least.
No, that
We're
I
not
like that.
supposed to think about that though,
Yeah.
I'm assuming. But yeah, I assume it would be super overwhelming for her to have that happen. And it's what I'll talk about this later, but it has a lot to do with how they interpret any sentence that comes out of her mouth. They listen to everything, they remember everything. I'll talk about that later in the hospital scene too. Also, a point was brought up by someone on Reddit that ice is a theme in the show. In the first episode, there was a guy, like a janitor in the research facility that was pushing like a floor cleaner and it said ice on it. And then we had the ice from the ice hotel, and one of the trucks also had a bunch of ice cubes graffitied onto the side. So I'm wondering where that's going. But yeah, I think it's interesting that what they what lengths they went to satisfy her in this episode. I think that's the main takeaway I got from this is how they're going to interact with her. I don't know if I answered the actual question, but
Oh, I just wanted your thoughts.
oh, okay, good.
There was no question per se. I appreciated this section of the episode for what it was accomplishing and showing how much the hive mind will bend over backwards to keep their unabsorbed people happy. But again, I thought this could have been done so much quicker. Like it just felt a little drawn out. It kind of reminds me of, I know like comedians talking about doing a scene where you're doing a bit and then you keep continuing to do the bit and it loses its comedic aspect, but then you still keep doing the bit and then at a certain point it becomes funny again. And I guess maybe that's the kind of philosophy that they were trying to employ with this section. I always think of that bit from Austin Powers when he's been revived from being frozen and he has to go for a piss. And it just goes on, and people start like Michael York's looking at his watch, and I think this whole episode I had that feeling, and it's a stylistic choice that I hope I can appreciate it because sometimes I think it's really effective. I just don't think it was as effective in this episode as has been in other instances, but that's maybe just my personality traits showing through on how I'm reacting to this because you two don't seem to be bothered by the slow pace of that scene because that to me was like a 10-minute scene that could have been easily done in 2 minutes. But
Oh
yeah,
no, I didn't say it didn't bother me. I just thought it was a really cool visual. It could have been shortened,
yeah,
definitely. I'd
yeah.
be okay with that too.
All right. The show was really establishing points that it's made previously about Carol's isolation and the hive mind's willingness to do anything for Carol. And this continues when Zasha shows up with a hand grenade, which is, on the surface of it, I chuckled out loud when I saw that, and I thought to myself, that's a real hand grenade. Like Carol was not taking it in that way. I think she obviously thought it was a fake or whatever.
Hmm?
It turned out to be a real hand grenade, and it led to Zossie having to throw Carol to the floor and throwing the live grenade out the window just in time, which injures Zossie and they have to take her to the hospital. And that leads up to that interesting conversation that I think you were referencing a bit ago, Karen. So why don't you talk about the grenade and the hospital scene?
Sure. One of the things that I mentioned in our last episode was that this hive mind mentality is erasing all the individuality, the need to learn, the need to explore, that sort of thing. They all know everything. I found there was a lot of that. They don't have a personality, essentially. When you have that many people all stuck in one intelligence, it has to smooth out all the edges. And we see that they don't get irony. They don't get dark humor. They don't understand what she's saying. She asks, "Hey, I guess get me a hand grenade so I can end it all." And the next thing is that she shows up with a hand grenade. Helen was not asking for a hand grenade. That is a very simple, ironic statement. Anyone who understands irony would get that. Maybe Drax doesn't understand from Guardians of the Galaxy. He never gets irony, but yeah, in this case, it really does outline the fact that they don't get it. They, their humanity is gone because they misinterpret everything that she does. Her personality doesn't compute. And they also they have this imperative to stay alive, to quote unquote breed. It also made me wonder if they have sex, but that's just me. Because if they do and they breed, would they have to also put the virus in them as well? Or would they come? Would they already have the virus in place? Anyway, I'm sure that's not going to be an issue. But yeah, and especially the scene in the hospital where the DHL employee comes out, I'm assuming from the operating suite, which is so weird. Why would he still be wearing his uniform? We know that they changed clothes, so that's weird. They went to all that trouble to get pilots for Carol. So why would they have someone come out of an operating room in a DHL uniform to talk to her? They would definitely have him. There's scrubs everywhere in a hospital. They would put scrubs on him. But anyway, that conversation that she has with the guy, he doesn't get her at all. He doesn't understand what she's trying to say. No matter what my request is, would you try and fill it? If I wanted something to destroy Earth, would you give it to me? And he is torn by this. The whole collective they don't know what to do with that information. And that it illustrates my point that I made is that they have lost that ability for nuance completely. It makes me wonder where they're going with that. How far are they willing to go? And that she also confirms that they're going to assimilate her even though it's against her wishes. Where's that line for them? How far are they going to go to satisfy?
I think
Right.
they did a good job of setting up that if you were drowning, wouldn't you help someone? And like you're drowning, you just don't realize it. In the meantime, it's their nature, right? They are the ultimate pleasers. They have to do this because the idea of seeing someone unhappy is like a book out of place for someone with,
OCD.
yeah, OCD. So I think they've done a good job of setting that up. And she does say, we thought you were being sarcastic,
Yeah.
but we weren't sure. And so the idea you can't. The biggest wait what is the guy in the DHL uniform. That is
Right.
just for comedy
Yeah.
because first off, we've already established that she's uncomfortable. So they had the pilots there in full thing. But
Mhm.
secondly, like they made the joke in the very first episode, I was nearby and I was in a suit.
Right.
So there would have been someone there in that hospital that was in scrubs to
Right.
go talk to her. But instead, they went for, and it was a funny scene and it was okay. The actor did great. I'm just saying in my mind, wait, what? Like everything else I've gotten, it's a stretch, but I gotten. But that one, I was like, okay, I don't agree with their creative choices there. Because if he was in the surgery, he would be in scrubs. And why was the DHL happen to be making a delivery? there, or
I'm
do they still
assuming.
do deliveries? I do the question about, do they have sex? Do they watch TV? Do they do anything entertaining? Do they read books anymore?
They'd only have to read one book.
Yeah, like one person reading. So, like, how do you, if you're not, like, when one person is operating, do is everyone operating, or are you able to turn your brain off a little bit in the same way you can have two thoughts in your mind? I don't know. But it was an interesting discussion, and I did like how the DHL guy, when they got to an atomic bomb, all of a sudden they did get uncomfortable. Oh yeah, we'll get you a grenade. Even after you saw what I did. Yeah, bazooka, sure. Tank, yeah. Atomic bomb. We would
Yeah.
probably talk to you about why. And at the end, they did have to say, "Do you want an atomic bomb?" We and the one of my favorite scenes is I think Free Enterprise is the name, where the people are obsessed with Wrath of Khan. And there is a scene at the very beginning where the girlfriend is just chewing him out because all he cares about is Star Trek. And she misquotes the
Oh,
name of an
yeah.
episode, and in his face, don't say it, don't say it, don't correct her, because that will prove every point that she's making, and he can't stop it.
And
He
he
still
still has
has
to
to
do it.
do it.
Yep.
And she just looks at him disgusted. I figured that's the way they are. They
Mm.
can't resist doing this.
Yeah. But imagine that you've seen every movie that exists, you've read every book that exists. Why would you make another movie? Why would you make more TV? Why would you write more books? And that's what is tragic to me.
Yeah.
That's just erased.
Yeah. I think there's a possible explanation for why they sent a DHL person is because literally they thought we have to deliver a message to her. So they sent a
Mm.
messenger. I don't know. Very literal. But the they're I think they've really, with this episode especially, they've really established that the hive mind has some strengths, if you want to call them that. It's just the fact that, like, basically because of numbers, they're able to get away with what they do. We know that their biological imperative is to survive, but they're not totally, they know what being happy means, I think, but they may be translating that from their perspective into what best can be expressed through language. So I'm not really sure because they don't seem to understand other emotions. They definitely don't get humor. They don't get sarcasm. They're amazed. They're literally literal to the nth degree, as witnessed by that conversation that Carol has with the messenger about an A bomb and that. And I think what the show is setting up is this battle of wills. Even though it's this hive mind against Carol, it's individuality versus community. And I'm wondering if the rest of the show is going to be her chipping away at their hive mind and trying to break down their cohesiveness. I'd still love to see if it's possible for the hive mind to release individuals from the collective mind and let them return to their original personalities. I don't know if we'll ever get that. And if they do, that might be like maybe in the last episode or whatever. But I think going forward, this battle of wills between the two is going to take place. There has to be some movement on Carol's part as a person too, because while I understand her individuality is her shield against the hive mind, I'm worried about it becoming a little too strident, a little too one note. I think they need to broaden her character out a bit more going forward. I don't want to say soften, but they have to show more aspects of her other than her just constant. I'm going to put this in quote. Karen's not going to like this, but they named the character Carol out as a tribute to Carol Burnett, but I wonder how large the impulse was to name her Karen.
No, it's
because
true.
because she's coming across as a very internet meme type of character in that aspect. So I think that's going to be the balancing act that the show is going to have to deal with. And I'm hope they're successful with it because I think over time people just might get turned off by this character, even though we're supposed to be rooting for her. She's not very likable at this point.
I do have to say, as somewhat of an expert on Karenism, she's not the typical Karen. And
No.
she hates everything, but it's not like she's going to call the manager or
Right.
whatever.
Yeah. Yeah.
She's just unhappy. And I do
Yeah.
think that's the baseline of the people that are called Karens, is that they're just basically unhappy all the
Yeah.
time and they want to spread that love to everyone else. But I tend to think of her as more like just a misanthrope. She's just curmudgeon-y,
Yeah.
as it were. I do think that she has glimmers of happiness in her life. It's
Yeah.
just she's lost all of that now. We can tell that she was happier with Helen. She desperately loved Helen because she gets so angry every time they bring her up.
Yeah.
And I do think it's interesting that the hive mind keeps bringing Helen up.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's interesting too. But yeah, people are calling her a Karen.
Yeah, I am wondering if where do we go?
Yeah.
Because if he's saying, and he has said that he thinks this is a 4-season show, 10 episodes, I assume, where is the it can quickly become a one joke show.
Yeah.
They're trying to make Carol happy. Carol is still unhappy. And I trust this creative team more than that. If that's all
Yeah.
Vince Gilligan was going to want to do, I don't think he would do this.
Yeah.
But you do wonder, where can this go?
Yeah.
And I am curious more about this hive mentality. One thing, just knowing everything doesn't make you smart.
Right.
No.
And the idea of, I know by muscle memory how to a sculpt a piece of sculpture or make a film or write a novel, but I also wonder, have you lost your personality in this hive mind? Because creative people want to create.
Yeah.
Like we do this podcast for a couple of reasons. One, we get to hang out together every Sunday and it's a joy. Two, we like talking about this stuff
Yeah.
together and dissecting it. This brings us joy. If you there's an Isaac Asimov short story where this reporter is visiting, and at the end the big executive says, the writer is the only one I'm not worried about. He has to write. He can't not write. We talked about a couple of weeks ago Stephen King retiring. I think Stephen King will always have to write because that's in his nature. He may not
Yeah.
want to publish anymore and not do anything. But yeah,
Right.
so how do you lose that gene? I'm also curious on, what is the population now? We've had this kind of discussion of that a lot of people died when they first invaded, and it is a kind of cool thing that they're cleaning up. Like we saw them taking dead bodies and cleaning them up and repairing things. Yeah, it's interesting. And I do think it's funny that we get the Golden Girls on DVD. I thought about, if I was Carol, I would say, hey guys, since you don't care anymore, can you make sure every DVD, I now want to watch this. Can you send me the DVD sets?
Yeah, except she
I,
doesn't want to do that. But
yeah,
yeah, where's the nearest Amazon warehouse?
yeah. So
And
Yeah,
she'll
exactly.
just
for
go there
sure.
and pick up whatever she wants, right?
Yeah. The episode is setting up interesting dilemmas for Carol because she wants to maintain her independence, but as the grocery store scene shows, she can't really do that without the help of the hive mind because she's not going to set up a garden like her soil. I don't even think will support a garden from
No.
what I can see. So if she's going to set up a greenhouse, it would have to be somewhere else. And is she going to become a vegetarian? I guess she's going to
She'll
have to be
have to.
because they're not going to kill animals for her
Or a hunter.
or a hunter. So the show is setting up some interesting things. And like Jesse said, and that's the beauty of the show is I just don't know where it's going from here because I'm still waiting to see maybe this grenade incident where she almost killed Zosia will be like the first crack in Carol's independence because she still hasn't really she hasn't addressed Zosia as an individual yet. She still basically calls her pirate lady. Uh,
Yeah.
and I'm waiting for her to open up a bit to Zosia, but we'll have to see where that's going. I'm holding on to the fact that 13th individual from Paraguay might become a big player later on in the show. I don't know.
He's
But
in the next episode.
oh, is he? Okay. So that's good to know. And the next episode, interestingly, is called Please, Carol, which I think as an audience member, I can relate to that title.
Yeah.
So we'll have to see where it goes. Anyhow, I think that's everything I've got. Let's go
Um,
around the horn
yeah.
for last thoughts. Jesse?
Yeah, one of the critics I really enjoy and I follow is Alan Sipawah.
Love him.
And he wrote that, I will quote this: "Why was the Friday waitress still wearing her uniform when she flew the plane in the second episode? Why is this guy still in his delivery uniform? Vince Gillian told me that the others don't care about fashion nor about cleanliness except when it's health related. Other than someone like Zoea, yeah, I don't,
Lucia?
Zosia.
yeah, who has gleamed up specifically to appeal to Carol, everyone is still wearing what they had on when they joined happening. Nobody's bothering to reapply makeup, etc. These episodes have taken so far over a short period of time, and we'll see if that remains the case or eventually becomes a Jack Reacher situation where the others wear an outfit until it becomes too ratty to be used, then throw it out and move on to the next one for as long as possible. And
Yeah.
I
So
appreciate
does
the
that
Jack
mean that
Reacher.
the doctors know how to operate and how to fix people? They should know about hygiene, right? So
Yeah,
those
Yeah.
people
yeah. And
do
they
the
said
right thing.
Yeah, and they said hygiene for cleanness. So they're all, but just
Okay.
this is not something they won't put on makeup or they won't do stuff like that. So yeah.
Which
Okay,
is
cool.
an interesting marker to be aware of, because if in future episodes we do see them starting to wear makeup and that, then we know that Carol's having an influence on the hive mind in some way. So that's an interesting point
Yeah,
to keep in mind.
and I wonder if we could speculate for a few minutes, maybe this is the first civilization, first planet where there were people that were not
Immune.
they were
Yeah.
immune.
Yeah.
In the past, it's always been everyone. And so will it slowly make, will she be able to influence them more than them influencing her? That
Right.
would be an interesting story. There was a zombie movie about that where the zombies started feeling more humanity. I can't remember the name of it, but yeah, so we'll see. I'm intrigued. I love the world that they built, and the acting is amazing in this.
Yeah.
So I want to mention how much I love that she watches the Golden Girls. I don't know if how many people still remember her. I know there is a huge fan base for the Golden Girls. Even still, they have conventions and stuff where they have
Oh, really?
like
They are played every night on the Hallmark Channel
yeah,
when
yeah.
it's not Countdown to Christmas.
Yep, and they were on not Lifetime, but another network. Now they're on Hallmark Channel and subsidiaries thereof. I think the History Channel and those ilk are, it's not on the History Channel. Anyway, God, I got off on a tangent there. I love that she was watching them because that show is so incredibly funny. So we get to see another part of her personality that she loves watching them enough to buy the DVDs. And I would like to think that they're showing us that she's kind of a Dorothy in her real life, very acerbic and sarcastic. For those of you, it's B. Arthur. She also played Maud in the show Maud. And she's very much that same type of person, just unhappy all the time and willing to say a bad word about something. That's her whole mentality. So it's cool that we got to see her watching them. It's an odd choice, I think, for the character, and I think it's really cool that's what they chose to have her watch.
I am assuming that was something her and Helen did together.
Yeah,
is
I
what
assume
I'm
so.
viewing that they
And the
like
fact
that.
that she doesn't want any connection to the Hive, and so she pulls out her DVDs, and that's what she's going to watch. I mean, I'm sure that all the other channels are off because they don't watch anything, but I think it's cool. That's what she pulled out of her library is the Golden Girls to watch, and I think it's probably like a comfort show for her.
Another point someone made is it is pretty funny there's that many landlines still available.
Exactly.
Yeah, that maybe that's just something there.
Maybe it's an alternate universe that
Yes.
they didn't have a lot of cell phones. And the fact that she's memorized that number.
I think she just hit 0.
She did in the hospital, but I
Yeah.
thought she actually dialed something elsewhere. Who knows?
Yeah.
But yeah, it's interesting that she can just get a hold of everyone. Hi, Carol.
Yeah.
And I do love how Zosia, she's talking to Zosia. Why does Zosia even get up to talk to her on the plane when all they have to do is talk to her through the little speakers? That the pilots are talking to her when she's asking Zosia a question. It's one of those like comedy beats that I find amusing, but I'm like, would they really do that?
And why would she sit at the back? I'm a little confused on why she picked that seat.
So she could be unhappy.
Okay.
So she could be as far away as possible from the hive.
Yeah.
Okay. That makes sense. Okay.
Yeah.
But I think she just wants to be uncomfortable everywhere she goes, to be fair.
Okay.
She likes to be isolated.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Alrighty. Anything else?
I really want one of those massagers. I've wanted one forever. They're like $400. They're really
Really?
expensive. Yeah.
Wow. Hopefully they're worth it. Alrighty, Jesse, if people want to find out more about you, where can they go to?
You can find me at Jesse Jackson DFW on Twitter, aka X. You can certainly hear me talking music on Set Lusting Bruce, where I talk to Bruce Springsteen fans from around the world. Also, every other week, we are discussing Doctor Who with our friend Charles Gaggs on Next Stop Everywhere.
Awesome. And Karen.
Yeah, I am at Aleveria, Aleveria on social media. My blog is alleystuff.com. And if you'd like to send us feedback, our email address is jklmediareviews@gmail.com.
And you can find me, Lou Sitzma, on this YouTube channel, JKL Media Reviews, where we're doing right now Pluribus, as well as The Expanse. And we have a whole bunch of other archived episodes dealing with movie, music, books, comics, and there's just a ton of good stuff in there. I hope you all take the time to check it out at some point. Also, on my other YouTube channel, Lou's Reviews, you'll find our archived episodes of Babylon 5, the entire series review, plus the animated movie, as well as my writers and Stephen King podcasts. On Twitter and Blue Sky, you can find me at lou.w.sitsma, Sytsma. And with that, stay happy. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
And scene.
Perfect. And that wraps up another episode of the JKL Media Podcast. Whether you're a longtime fan or just discovered the podcast, we hope today's conversation sparked some reflection, curiosity, or even a rewatch. If you enjoyed the episode, don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with someone who needs a little more joy in their life. You can find us on all major platforms. Until next time, stay curious, stay connected, and keep the story going.